I know your kind. You think you can waltz in and just take our planet. Like you forgot one thing, I'm my father's son!
Critics love to pretend that their fearless leader, the super Egyptian, hasn't been exposed as an outright fraud, and on numerous occasions at that. We all know that non-specialists like Super Egyptian and 747 have a folder full of their favorite faded statues on their computers. Today, we'll be covering Super Egyptian's bold-faced lies about a statue of one of Egypt's most famous kings, Amenhotep III, who was a real black man. Amenhotep's court has been described as the finest and richest court of his time. Beautiful art in Egyptian history was created in this era and stands as a testament to the magnificence of this African civilization. We've all seen this statuette of Amenhotep before. This is an excellent example of realistic Egyptian art. One of the problems that they have is the fact that the average Egyptian was pretty dark. So they manipulate the uninitiated and lie about every Egyptian being light colored. This is all very unscientific and an example of people creating their own evidence. That's the case with this statuette of Amenhotep III. In his video covering this fine piece of art, I caught a super Egyptian creating his own evidence using no sources whatsoever. Amenhotep's skin is a beautiful ebony color, and this is in line with virtually every image Amenhotep had produced for himself. What we end up with is a super Egyptian creating his own evidence by resorting to oxidation theories based on his own authority and nothing more.
We are here today with Ed Bleiberg, the curator of Egyptian art here at the beautiful Brooklyn Museum. Now this piece in particular today is one of your favorites that we're going to be talking about, and this is Amenhotep III, right?
That's right. Amenhotep III lived in the 14th century BC. He ruled for 36 years.
That's a long time.
We see him going over his lazy research about oxidation and how when wood comes into contact with oxygen, rain, sunlight, and windy weather, it becomes oxidized. Once again, I see more excuses, and these Eurocentrics will praise this garbage. Tanning, oxidation, dark Caucasians.
Spray painting artificial melanin trying to be like us.
What's interesting about this is made of wood and gold as well, but I think we wouldn't normally think of wood being a luxurious item, but it was. Is that right?
It was definitely. This wood was brought from Lebanon to Egypt. The Egyptians don't have great trees for carving.
No,
they have palm trees and acacia, but nothing really that works well for art.
He really reigned in a very peaceful and prosperous time.
That's right. The entire Eastern Mediterranean was pretty much at peace. And the statue really illustrates that because of the fact that it's made from wood that came from north of Egypt, and the gold, of course, came from the Sudan, which is south of Egypt.
He then goes on to post the same played out pictures we've all seen before, and then posts a picture of wood that appears to be the victim of artificial oxidation. He then goes on to mention something about things losing their color. I'm sure this is something that he knows intimately. Super Egyptian is a man of no scruples and no shame. While he was busy manipulating insecure white people, I was busy tracking this statue down at the Brooklyn Museum, which is the home of this ancient antiquity. Unfortunately for Super Egyptian, he creates his own theories and is a bold-faced liar about to be outright exposed for his complete lack of knowledge. On the Brooklyn Museum's website, we can find a wealth of information about this piece, and everything written about it completely contradicts Super Egyptian. Nothing about its described condition says that it was damaged, left outside, or was a victim of oxidation. We also see that it was donated to the museum through the Charles Edwin Wilbur Fund. Super Egyptian will never give you information like this because his research is simply not on my level. Having said that, we see here that the museum says that this is an excellent example of Egyptian art, and is evidence that Egyptian art actually did not stay static over time. The grand masters of the game are not going to be talking about Caucasoids, dynastic race, or suntans today. This is an assertion made by Western European Egyptologists who had absolutely nothing to do with anything anyway. History has shown us that Egyptologists have come up with multiple theories that were demonstrated to be completely bogus later. The museum also mentions that the New Kingdom was a time of prolific art making. This too is also true. Some of the best art in Egyptian history comes from this time period, and they really are the most famous renditions of black people that you've ever seen. Yet, on 7 Phoenician 7's channel or on Super Egyptian's channel, you're not going to see that type of art. There are some real hidden gems here. Yet parasites, like Super Egyptian, look at these things and they covet it for themselves. So they don't want us to enjoy the history, and they seek to sow confusion. That won't be working
Be
in
the
Super
first to see hell. How unfortunate. I intended to toy with you a bit more.
Here we see, at the king's feet, inscriptions mentioning a festival, some of his ceremonial name. Here's the information that Super Egyptian failed to disclose in his video. That's because he doesn't have this information. His idea of information is Matilda's blog. The museum itself says that they don't know much about where this statue came from, and that it was acquired in 1948, a time when it was rare for dealers to record contextual information. And we all know this was due to the fact that these antiquities were stolen from Egypt and taken to Europe. You can see right here for yourself that the museum says that a relative lack of damage suggests that it was in an undisturbed place from antiquity, and that the state of preservation is very unusual. That's because this thing was meant to be found like this. Providence preserved Amenhotep as a slap in the face to every chimpanzee eurocentric clown that hides behind. Let's remember that the reign of Amenhotep was the stuff Egyptian dreams were made of, and it was unabashedly black. Instead, 747 only wants to show us the non-black Egyptians of the 18th dynasty, or the ones she thinks are Caucasian. When we look at this statue, we can clearly see that it's in excellent condition and was unmolested throughout many eras of world history, ready to be found, not looking ambiguous, but like a real black man should. Now let's get back to Super Egyptian. Compare this to a Super Egyptian who claims that it's badly damaged. He posts all this gibberish about rainy weather and windy conditions, yet the museum and the statue itself have clearly demonstrated that the relative lack of damage suggests it was in an undisturbed place, waiting to be a testament. We already know that some of these mental patients are ready to take Super Egyptian's word over the... There's nothing we can do for them. All they can do is watch us from a distance. Here, we see Super Egyptian not manipulating, but outright lying when he says this faded statue of Amenhotep I is less damaged than the one of Amenhotep III at the Brooklyn Museum. We all have eyes here, and we can clearly see that this is not the case. Yet, these eurocentric imps will jump into the comments to thank Super Egyptian for a good job smashing these so-called eurocentrics. First of all, he asserts that Amenhotep III is badly oxidized, yet his home at the museum says clearly that there is a relative lack of damage.
Or like that's all I think about, but let's face it, he doesn't look super athletic. He doesn't look super athletic. I don't want to sound vain, or like that's all I think about.
The clip you're seeing here is off the wall, Amenhotep III, where they go to visit this statue. The discussion at no point in time mentions anything about oxidation or damage. I put this mashup together myself to show you a high quality side-by-side comparison of these two. We can clearly see when looking at the torsos that the differences in quality are the complete opposite of what Super Egyptian has said. Now compare this to Amenhotep III. We can see that he's doing just fine. Now let's compare the torsos close up. The difference in quality is night and day, and right here, Amenhotep III's torso looks very realistic. It must punish a Eurocentric to look at that and have no answer, but a rationalization or excuse in the Amenhotep was proud to be unabashedly black, and most of his world statues in particular. But getting back to Super Egyptian, we see here yet another comparison. We can see the back of the statue here, and it's very rare to see the back of this thing, but you can see it right here on this chin. Here, we can observe that the dark paint has faded off of Amenhotep I along with the damage to his crown. The Eurocentrics love to take advantage of faded statues so they can imagine Central Europeans as Egyptian kings. But that ship sailed long ago, people. Ancient Egypt's history belongs to Africans now. So,
one of you should be the first to see hell. How unfortunate. I intended to toy with you a bit more.
You can see again that the museum says the statue is beautiful, and we can see that it looks fine in the display case. It couldn't be any more clear that Super Egyptian told a bold-faced lie that not even I needed to point out. Yep, a Eurocritic will look right at that and thank him for a good job. That's mediocre. This is why we smash on you daily. Yet, more evidence that he never knows what he's talking about. He's posted an entire page of oxidation definitions, but the wood is in excellent condition, according to the Human Eye and the Brooklyn Museum, the home of this piece.
No, that's right, and that's one of the things that separates this statue from other periods of Egyptian history. This is really just the beginning of the period when truth became important to Egyptian artists. 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 It became important to Egyptian artists. Truth became important to Egyptian artists. And so they show him as an older man.
He spams us with boring slideshows talking about wood weathering over time and deteriorating. In the meantime, I'm showing up to get things black to reality. We can see here that gold and ebony were used on only the most expensive objects for the highest class patrons. And look what they chose to do with it. You hate dark skin, and Amenhotep thought it was beautiful. Instead, the Euro critics come with more theories, and it's all an exercise in futility. At the end of the story, Super Egyptian tells us that his self-made enemies appear to be confused or in deep denial, that the oxidized statues deteriorate with age, yet again with no source and no evidence. He just says it and expects you to buy it. I found out where the statue was located, displayed all relevant information for it, gave an unprecedented look at this piece in close detail, and have clearly demonstrated this statue's excellent condition. Also, the Brooklyn Museum, home of this statue, has praised it and told us clearly that it is in fact in good condition. There is no evidence of it being exposed to the elements. Super Egyptian has the audacity to claim someone's in denial or confused? Could this be any more clownish? Could this expose be any more thorough? I've clearly demonstrated today how individuals like Super Egyptian and 7 Phoenician 7 are nothing but natural parasites leeching off African people. They post only one type of Egyptian and lie outright to deceive people that are ready to buy it. I personally think it's wrong, but these people have no scruples. Here they are claiming this is what an Egyptian looked like. 3,000 years of history, and this is what they come up with. It's always so vanilla and boring looking, and 7 Phoenician 7's upteenth picture of a model head. "3,000 years of history, and this is what they come up with. It's always so vanilla and boring looking at 7 Phoenician's umpteenth picture of a model head. They always fail to post the untold number of real ancient Egyptian people that look nothing like what they're lying about. I have a previous video where I reminded everyone that there was clearly 2 types of people that we can call ancient Egyptians, with local variation in between. Yet, these clowns rarely post from the vast majority of Egyptian society. Some of the most fascinating works are the ones featuring these dark-skinned Egyptian people who are simply way too dark to be talking about permanent skin tans. And if they believed in that phony theory, then they would just post these pictures anyway. Instead, they choose low-quality photos, generic artwork, model heads, and faded statue. Every now and then, they might post a small picture camouflaged into a collage, or they'll post a picture of a straight-up black man like Huni or Amenhotep and expect not to be called cultural parasites. When we assess this situation, we can see that we're clearly surrounded on all sides by Egypt groupies, always imagining themselves in an African paradise, whether it's the savannas of North Africa 10,000 years ago or trekking thousands of miles to go to build great Zimbabwe. Such is the life of a parasite.
Spray painting artificial melanin, trying to be like.
You're going to love this. Trust me.
What you're seeing now is my normal state.
Yet this clown pretends that the Egyptians didn't depict these obvious caucasoids very retarded and very weird looking. I can observe these Nubian princes here. The Egyptians didn't draw a single picture of an Indo-European prince, not once in dynastic history. Because there was no Indo-European prince in ancient times. Even without Egypt, there's still a Nubian prince there. Where's your Nubian prince, Europeans? And I'm not talking about a burial with some gold and horses in it. You have no princes. That's why you said the Nubians were white when you found their civilization. Now you went insane with envy because they were in bed with the Egyptians and you decided to change your story. That's too bad. We can't babysit your feelings here. Speaking of Nubians, we appreciate the fact that they're in solidarity with us here in America and other people around the world. These people were on the ground when pharaonic institutions were being established over 5,000 years ago. That about sums this up. But before we go, I wanted to demonstrate again the parasitic nature of the Eurocritic, who can go from having an intelligent discussion
For me, it's
to being a
reassuring to know
wannabe.
that not all ancient Egyptian kings look like Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt? There was no Egyptian looking like Brad Pitt. Why would she say that? They go from discussing Amenhotep to Hollywood fantasies at the drop
Ancient
of a
Egyptian
dime.
kings look like Brad Pitt.
It reminded me of a caller on a radio program who said to an Egyptologist that he enjoyed the rendition of Egypt in the movie The Scorpion.
Ancient Egyptian kings look like Brad Pitt.
The Egyptologist is having a serious discussion with the host, and this guy's calling to talk about another Hollywood fantasy.
Great painting, artificial melanin, trying to be like